80% of men are addicted to lust, and some of them start their addiction as early as 13. The story usually goes something like this. On his 13th birthday, little Jimmy receives his first smartphone. This magical device that can show you whatever you desire and whenever you desire, with absolutely no one there to monitor you. Little Jimmy starts by watching something a bit naughty, and he has a good time watching it. He has now discovered this superpower that gives him free pleasure. And before little Jimmy knows it, he is now watching lustful things all the time. When he's bored, when he's sad, when he's stressed, this free pleasure now becomes his coping mechanism. But soon little Jimmy realizes a dark reality, that there is no such thing as free pleasure. The years of watching lustful videos has now robbed him of his motivation, his discipline and his masculinity. And the worst part is he's addicted to the very poison that is making his life worse. Hi, my name is Jibreal Khan. I help men break free from lust and become the best versions of themselves. I have worked with dozens of men who were addicted to lust for 10 plus years and who have now successfully broken free from this addiction. In this video, I'm going to share with you a highly effective system that has allowed people to break free from lust permanently. These principles are tried and tested and require to make some serious lifestyle changes. So if you're looking for a quick fix, then perhaps this is not the video for you. But if you're sick and tired of falling into lust over and over again and finally want to become the man that you were destined to be, then let's get into it. One of the biggest mistakes that I noticed people make was that they used to rely on raw motivation to suppress their lustful desires. But that is like being constantly engaged in this mental tug of war. At one end you have your motivation pulling you, and at the other end you have lust pulling you. But the thing is, motivation is a limited resource. It is bound to run out, and the lustful urges are going to win eventually. But what is everlasting and will always give you the desired results are systems. A system does not rely on willpower. After working with dozens of clients, I designed a system that would guarantee that a person never falls back into lustful thoughts. There are 5 overall components to the system. Let's go through them. When you regularly engage in lustful activities, then your brain is bombarded with this pleasure chemical called dopamine. After a while, you begin to crave it and you feel urges. This is why you see so many people on subreddits like NoFap barely lasting a week before falling into lust again. It's because years and years of porn use has made them lose their ability to say no to instant pleasure. But what if I told you that there was a way to build back your ability to say no and stop these cravings? Like, think about how easy it would be if you never had the urge to watch lustful things. The answer is fasting. Fasting is when you do not consume food for a certain period of time. And when you train your mind to say no to something as fundamental as food, then saying no to lust becomes way easier. When you fast, you are sending your body the message that there are not many resources around, so it better stay focused and alert to look out for food. So this way, your desire to reproduce or be lustful are no longer the priority. My clients reported that once they started fasting, they saw a reduction in their urges by 80 to 90%. And this is why fasting is such a fundamental component to this system. In my experience as a coach, this component is responsible for 90% of relapses that people have, and this is your sleep schedule. Most people who are trying to quit lust greatly underestimate how much their sleep schedule impacts their self-control. Research shows that if you are sleep deprived, you are not going to have good impulse control, and this makes you very susceptible to fall back into lust. Also, it's not just enough to sleep 8 hours a day. Sure, the quantity of sleep is important, but what is even more important is that you wake up and go to bed at regular times each day. Sleeping and waking up at random times causes you to have brain fog. Brain fog is this jet lag like effect, and when you feel this way, you just don't want to do anything productive. I have worked with clients who have had streaks as long as 90 days, but then they found themselves falling back into watching lustful content. And in nearly all these relapses, sleep schedule was a major factor. They had a late night dinner or a wedding to attend or a family trip they had to make, and that caused the disruption in sleep. Even having poor sleep for 2-3 days can set your progress back massively. The third component is probably one that most people neglect. You know that saying, you are what you eat? no truer words have been said. If you are someone who eats a lot of comfort foods like chips, chocolates, KFC, then you are once again bombarding your brain with quick pleasure and turning it into a pleasure-seeking machine. Your brain is now looking for quick pleasure not only in food, but also in all other areas of your life, from skipping homework to even watching lustful content. This is the reason why most bad habits come in bunches. When a person's diet is shit, he's also very often addicted to social media, video games, pornography. So what I do with my clients is that I put them on a whole food diet. These are foods that have just one single ingredient in them. Things like vegetables, meat, fish, fruits, honey, dates. And then I ask them to avoid ultra processed food. And these are things which typically come in packets and have 10-15 ingredients in them. This change alone will reduce your urges by 60-70%. The next component has been life-changing for me personally. Waking up without a plan for the day is probably the worst thing that you can do. If you do not wake up with a plan on how to spend your day, then your monkey brain is going to assign you a plan. What I would recommend is that you design a routine for yourself. List out all the activities that you intend to do that day and the specific time at which you're going to do them. My clients have reported that when they are really engaged in their work and fill their time with productive things, they feel good about themselves. Because when you actually do productive things, your brain releases a healthy dose of pleasure. So now you don't crave pleasure from other detrimental things. But on days when they just wake up and do nothing productive at all, then your brain feels like it needs to get pleasure from elsewhere. And once again, they find themselves in this mental tug of war, wanting pleasure by watching lustful content. During the Vietnam War, a large number of American soldiers had become addicted to heroin while fighting in Vietnam. Now authorities were concerned what is going to happen to these soldiers once they come back to the United States, because heroin is such an addictive drug and was considered impossible to quit. But what they found was absolutely shocking. 90% of the heroin addicted soldiers never touched heroin once they came back to the United States. And the reason for this was change in environment. They went from fighting a highly stressful war in Vietnam where they had no family around and all the other soldiers were using heroin, to moving back home to United States where there was no war, had family members around, and no one in their proximity was using heroin. I have seen pretty amazing results using environment change strategy with my clients. Of course, I don't ask them to relocate to Vietnam, but what I do make them do is make changes to their room. Change the curtains or the bed sheet, or reorient a chair, add a scenery, and even the wallpaper of your devices. All these tiny changes make them feel like they are in a different environment, and they report that this greatly reduces their urges. Each of the components in this system are extremely important. Even if one of them is missing, then the entire system breaks and you end up falling back into lust. But here's the brutal truth. Most people do not know how to be disciplined consistently. You might be motivated after watching this video, but after 2 to 3 days, once the motivation runs out, you go back to doing your old habits. So make sure that you watch this video to get disciplined effortlessly.